Could I build on that a little bit?
Pardon?
Can I build on that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Yes, go ahead.
It sounds like what you're talking about, private members association. It sounds like that might be a good vehicle to use to try to prime the pump for organizing at our precinct levels. If a volunteer, like Michael's got a list of people in our agenda that are just activists or auditors or I forget what all terms Michael was using there, but just somebody that's volunteering to be a leadership, a temporary leader, pro tem leader of the precinct, a precinct captain, temporary, nonpartisan. It's not for the Republican or the Democratic Party, is where things are all goofing up, but for everybody.
Right.
And thereunder. It would seem to me that your private members association could be pursuing a whole common law agenda, and the activist that's assuming the leadership position there could be pushing the envelope with the de factos with the technology that you're bringing to the table of about private membership associations. Does that sound good, Gary?
Yeah, and you know, we kind of wrote our own constitution because that's going to be like, you got to have that in your membership contract, which basically is our Bill of Rights, but we added a few other things. But we also did away with the name states or counties, which the corporate uses. We called our counties, which would be states within the Nevada Republic, we called them cantons. We used some of the Swiss constitution. We took a few things out of the Swiss Constitution.
Well,
so we didn't restrict ourselves strictly to the U.S. Constitution. We noticed some good things out of other constitutions.
Mm-hmm. So you quit using the word counties?
Yeah, if we're referring to a county, we're saying a canton. So it doesn't conflict. That's another thing.
I think I mentioned before that word county is actually from French administrative law, which is a version of municipal law, and a better alternative word than county or even canton, I suggest, would be shire, the shire of the sheriff. Anyway, there's lots of different ways it can break, and this is a good brainstorming session. I'm glad you guys are sharing an intelligent conversation with me about all this. This is a good group discussion. I'm glad we're having it.
Somebody dropped off, didn't they?
I think we got Cliff from Michigan again, Lewis's friend here. How you doing, Cliff?
Oh, I'm doing fine there, Charles.
Thank you. Yeah. Glad you're increasing our numbers here, Cliff. We're chewing on the bone a little bit. You feel free to jump in anytime.
You know I know, but you make me welcome all the time.
Thank you.
That's like in the Nevada Constitution, militia is defined as their National Guard. And militia cannot parade in public. But there's no stipulations regarding a reenactment group, a living history group. So that's what we kind of did, a living history group called the First Volunteer Mounted Rifles. And we're using basically what they wore back in the 1898s. And we're using lever action rifles and shotguns and Colt revolvers. And we're using the insignia, which is black, to put on our hats. The braids are black, suspenders are black, belts are black, the scarf is black. That tells you it's a militia. But we do a living history. We got one guy that's good at doing Dutch ovens, and he's also a doctor. So, I mean, that's the way to have a militia, but have it as a living history group and tell. And that's one way you can use to recruit people into it, saying we're a living history group.
Well, you know we're going to have to resort to more direct confrontation eventually.
Yeah. So it's a good idea that keeps everybody protected. Now, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Front Sight, which is right south of us. It's a professional weapons training facility and some other stuff. And when we were doing our reenactment group, we were giving people a lifetime membership because one of the guys was high up in the deal, and he was able to give out free lifetime membership, which is a $2,000 value for our members to go over there and get good on their weaponry and other things they had, like repelling, a few of the things.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you're thinking in broad terms here, Gary, and putting lots of different undercurrents that are resources that are available to us on the table so that we can be aware of them. That $2,000 value, that could be the source of an alternative currency. Whoever's in position of leadership there, they could issue credits up to $2,000 value. I would prefer to not even word it in terms of dollars. I'd talk about grams of silver, but approximately the equal amount of silver as $2,000. But at that point, see, you can issue credit instruments based upon the alternative currency that your militia organizing group, the training center there, is producing. And that can be the basis of a currency to pay off people's utility bills and things like that. It can be real-time, cutting-edge economic and peace officer supportive currency.
If I may. May I?
Yeah.
Were you done, Charles? I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate a little more on the private membership association. I've got some information on it myself. Let me just read this briefly. It's a very short paragraph. It says, even during intense litigation, the court consistently upheld the status of the private membership association, consequently making it a cornerstone of legal arguments used by the civil rights movement. Though the Constitution does not specifically enshrine private membership associations, the Supreme Court describes the right and power to associate, including under private membership association, as equal to free speech. I believe this is a clear vehicle that we could climb on board and use to navigate these dangerous territory that we're in here.
Yeah, I mean, because you can, like I said, until you get, because to have authority, you need some backing, and backing. Even though we have a problem with Kevin Annett up there in Canada, we still got that court, and it's recognized. It has charters in other nations, so you can get them to help back you and get recognized.
Well, Kevin Annett is. If that's the best we can do, we've got problems. I have some respect for him, but a lot of what... Well,
see, he doesn't really have that much control per se in the rest of the court or the other charter courts. He's over there in that Republic of Canada that he's forming over in British Columbia now. And I deal strictly with the main court or one of the other courts. Like in Austria, they have a real nice court over there in Italy. In fact, Italy asked me to be on one of their common law universities staff, and I said, well, I'm over here in America. Oh, we just want your name on it. Okay, So I put my name out there in the Nevada Republic, even if sometimes it's just a Facebook knowledge, but I get around the world. I get the name Nevada Republic recognized, and it's flagged around the world, the globe. I also have 2 Japanese reporters from the Japanese Free Press. Whenever I put out a good email or something, I always send them copies of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's if I may. Yeah.
Go ahead.
If I may elaborate a little further, I'd like to take it to the next step. It gets a little interesting here.
Okay.
regarding the applications, the variety of applications, the use for private membership associations has been to shield organization or practitioners from legal scrutiny. In regards to alternative medicine and healthcare, private membership associations have opted to induct their patients into the organization to streamline care and get around prohibitive and costly regulation. Under the First and 14th Amendment and equivalent state constitutional provisions, private membership associations such as independent alternative medical practitioners can offer members, patients, in parentheses, benefits and services without the scrutiny of the state and federal agencies. So it acts as a legal shield, a cover, if you would.
Well, but what is law? In order for these corporate courts to have jurisdiction over you, they got to have a contract. The sheriff's department has to have a contract. Everybody has to have a contract, the Supreme Court says, because they're not legit. Well, so the contract is our controlling item. So if all our members have contracts that are membership contracts, that overrides those other authorities, because now we have our own courts, we have our own marshals, we have our own doctors, our own stores. Whatever we want to do, we can. It's unlimited what we can do with that.
Yeah, it is.
I'd like to suggest that none of the 3,000 or so sheriffs in the USA need a contract in order to have courts enforce, support their functions as peace officers. They've got inherent duties to and rights to keep the peace in the county and to exercise force in the county if and when necessary in order to keep the peace. And they don't need a contract to do so. That's common law jurisdiction. Of course, most of them are indoctrinated to function and think like municipal franchisees. And
right.
Yeah, and so that's the problem, the learning curve that we got to get them educated past if they're at all inclined in a righteous direction. But yeah, those sheriffs have a lot more power than what most of them think they've got. And if we could start educating the sheriffs, the good ones, we could start sending out massive letters to all of the 3,000 sheriffs in the USA. And if we only had 20 of them that responded favorably, boom, we could start going to town with those 20, and it would produce such a benefit in those 20 counties that soon thereafter everybody would start following, I believe.
Well, that'd be nice.
Let me read a small additional portion here. It goes on to say, private membership associations are still afforded all the rights and freedoms of an American citizen, including the right to due process, should state official make inquiries into their operation and organization. So,
right. But we got to make sure we always add the word common law PMA on there.
Mm-hmm.
That's like our flag. We have one flag without, just with the flag itself, but there's another flag in the lower right-hand corner. We got the initials CLPMA.
Mm-hmm.
So until we get until we become a real republic, we're going to put that CLPMA on there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just your stepping stone. That's just like Texas. If Texas would have did this years ago, when they tried to be a republic again and formed a common law, well, would have been 40 years now, I think, they would have been running, basically, would have took over the state.
Mm-hmm. In the wording there, I would try to, when you're talking about common law PMA, I would try to throw in the word precinct there to just really give it some tangible, real-world grounding, because precincts are already mapped out all across the USA, and they're recognized. Right. And as a matter of well-established law, the sheriff has no jurisdiction in there, and local city police officers, they can be told to stay out. They can be told that we've got enough town constables here in our precinct level jurisdiction, PMA, that if we need your help, we'll call you and we'll ask you and we'll pay for it in a separate accounting. Send us a bill if we need your services. We probably won't. Yeah. And at that point, you're reducing the police power over you. That police power that all of the municipalities are exercising with their local municipal police forces, you look up the definition of the word police power, that's the Supreme Court, that's all dependent upon a corrupted definition of the 10th Amendment from the United States Supreme Court, whereunder they say that, they pervertedly say that the people, in all of their wisdom in the Constitutional Convention that was controlled by Alexander Hamilton and George Washington and the other high-level Freemasons, that Constitutional Convention resulted in the 10th Amendment, which authorized the people to delegate their authority to the states, to create an environment in states wherein each of the states can create their own jackbooted Nazi military regimes because of liberty of the states. And so the federal government doesn't have any authority because of the 10th Amendment to interfere when the states start establishing their own jackbooted Nazi military dictatorships. That policy comes from a perverted U.S. Supreme Court interpretation of the meaning of the 10th Amendment. Thereby, they establish the local police power. And they're under the whole chain of command goes up to the U.S. Supreme Court for their crooked, forked-tongued lawyers smiling at us and say, well, we got the right to do this. Supreme Court ruled so. But it's all top-down authoritarian, and if you juxtapose that to the town constable peace officer thing, where the 10% of the precinct, a local township jurisdiction of approximately 10 households of 10 qualified electors, you look at that, and they elect their own town constable that's directly accountable to them. He's also the tithing man. He collects all the taxes or tithings or whatever you want to call them for economic necessities for the community local government. That is so superior to the police power that, Lewis and a number of us have been talking about the whole movement that other people are talking about too, mostly on the left, about abolish the police. And all kinds of misguided right-wingers are saying, oh no, we need the police. They got to be able to have their guns to protect us because we're too stupid to protect ourselves. They don't really say that, but that's the import of their positioning. And I'm sorry, at this particular juncture, the lefties are ahead of the right-wingers because, the lefties instinctively know that we don't need that military jackbooted police force. And enlightened right-wingers should be picking up on it. Well, yeah, our local town constables can assume all of those duties, and we don't really need to abolish the police, but we need to get our peace officers up and running and then invite the police officers to accept a 10% raise in their salary and standard of living and come on over and be a local town peace officer instead of a local municipal franchisee obedient slave master police officer.
Security force.
Well, yeah, I hope I'm making sense. I get so angry I kind of lose my wording sometimes.